my business, Art Rob Studios. But for the next probably year and a half, 2 years, I'm transitioning into the arts and medicine field. And I've started with my master's degree, so I'm working on that right now. And today I'm just going to give you a little background of what that is. And I do have a want or a need concerning what I'm doing. So with that, I will get started. I think when somebody says arts and medicine, you think of maybe a little old lady or an artist or something pushing a cart in a hospital, hallway, asking people if they want to paint or draw. And if you have a person laying in bed, you're thinking to yourself, really? That's the last thing I want to do when I'm in a hospital setting or upset or got bad news is to paint or draw. But that's not what this program is all about. This program's been around for 15 years with Shands Hospital, and it encompasses the entire hospital. It's not just this one little person walking down the hallway. And it's also part of Duke University. Moffitt's had an arts and medicine program for 10 years. I believe there's about 2,500 hospitals across the country that are doing this now, and it's expanding. So Shands is sort of the mothership, the one that has really kind of pushed it along and gotten it started. So with that, I'll give you a little bit of background. I'm going to read real quick just 2 different instances that are going to sort of help paint a picture of what exactly this is. A man came into an emergency room waiting area having a panic attack. He was advised that the wait would be a long one, and he was very anxious. After a short time, the painter that happened to be there, that was just painting in a corner, and they called them artists in residence, asked him if he would like to have his portrait painted while he waited. At first he was confused and slightly irritated by the question, but with the apparent realization that he had nothing else to do, he consented. He sat quietly for a long time as the artist painted, but eventually began to tell her about his life. She listened as she painted, and when she finally handed him his finished portrait, he stood up and thanked her, adding, "I don't need to see a doctor anymore, I feel fine." He embraced her with gratitude and a sense of connection as he left the hospital.
Awesome.
The dancer in residence was referred to Jamie by her physician. The 12-year-old girl was experiencing a relapse of cancer after several years of good health. Her previous treatment for a brain tumor had left her blind, but she had mentioned to her doctor that she wanted to learn to dance. She asked the dancer to teach her ballet, jazz, modern dance, swing dance, and hip-hop. The dancer worked with her each day. Despite her lack of sight, she learned quickly and even began creating original swing steps. She loved it when her family, nurses, and doctors would come and watch her dance. She effectively used dancing to define her environment and to affirm her orientation toward life. Her room was filled with music and dancing, and whoever came in was invited, but usually expected to dance with her. So that gives you a little bit of background of exactly how this encompasses an entire hospital. And Shands, at any given time, they have, I believe it's every Friday, they have big concerts going on. They have piano concerts going on. And they also have all different artists in residence. It covers theater, it covers the written word, it covers visual arts, and musicians and singers. So there's constantly something going on. So it's not a person going in and forcing a person to engage in art. It's there, it's everywhere in the hospital, and even people that really don't ever engage in art in their everyday life, eventually, if they're there long enough, will want to come around and either walk down the hallway and see a little theater troupe, or go to a concert, or maybe even create something. You get a lot of patients that are in the hospital for months at a time, waiting for lung transplants or any kind of a transplant. They have to be there for a long period of time. And so there's always something there for them to do. And it is that little person, little lady, or if you're like me, that little lady pushing that cart down the hallway and realizing that if somebody's come into the hospital, they've taken everything away from that person. They take your clothes, they take your belongings, they take everything away, and it leaves you, whether you know it or not, it's leaving you with a little bit of, out of control. You have no control of your life at that point. So what the arts is doing is bringing the control back to the person. If you go back through history, the arts and medicine have always been there. If it's been shaman, dancers chanting to heal, if it's been poetry that's being read, even if you read the Bible in Psalms where David is playing the lyre or reading for King Saul. So it's always been there. There was a point where it stopped, and we focused more on the science of medicine instead of healing the mind, body, and spirit. And so this program is all-encompassing, and it's trying to bring a little bit of that back in. So with that being said, my needs and my wants are this. I have a couple of things. I'd like to get in front of some people in the art, not the art field, but in the medical field. And I do have some contacts, and I've reached out to them, and I'm making some appointments. But if any of you know of anybody that would be interested in just listening to what this is all about, with Bay Care or any of the big hospitals around here, or any facilities that do like nursing home facilities, or any kind of care, it encompasses everything. You can almost let your imagination run wild, and it can be a part of anything. So that's one want or need. And then the next one or need is a little bit more timely, because I kind of need it today. I have to do blogs. And part of the blogs that I'm doing, like for instance, one that I did this week was called Art and Migraines. And so I did a lot of research on people with migraines and how sitting down and painting has helped them through their migraine. And I actually went online and found out that over in the UK, they had a facility over there that worked for many, many years with people with migraines, and they took all the artwork and they had a show. And so they have put together over 300 works, and so I bought the book. So this is all about people that have had migraines that have worked with art, so if you want to just pass that around. I brought the Play-Doh in so you could sit down and play with it and have a good time and just get the stress release. So if you want to sit down and do that while we're kind of brainstorming what I need, then feel free and go ahead. But it's a big stress release, and it's another part of the healing process and how art can help heal. So that's where I am right now, and those are my wants and my needs. If you think real hard.
So tell me about your blog again. What do you
The blog is you have to have a health issue that is a current health issue. It can be anything, and then I will research how art is helping in that current field. So
what if I don't particularly have it, but what if
it can be any healthcare issue.
Okay, there's something called piriformis syndrome, which is a sciatic issue, but it's not a true sciatic caused by, well, it is, but it's not caused by a disc sciatic. I guess, sure, any sciatic. I want to see how art is helping.
That's funny that you should say that, because I was going to do this blog on art and back pain, and that was flipping through my head, and I thought, you know what, I think I'll do that because so many people suffer from back pain.
If you could somehow link that to my website or my
I can
show me how to.
I post all of my blogs on my Facebook page, so you can actually get on my Facebook.
Which Facebook page?
My Robin, my
reach?
personal one.
Okay.
My personal one. Sciatic. Okay. Okay. Yeah, that's funny that you should say that.
Well, I have piriformis syndrome / sciatic.
How do you spell that?
P-I-R. F-O-R. P-I-R-I.
P-R-I-I.
F-O-R-I.
F-O-R-I.
M-I-S.
N-I-S.
M-M-S.
Piriformis.
It's a muscle.
Okay. Yeah, anybody else have anything? I mean, when I did the migraines, I just know so many people that suffer from them. And I thought, okay, I'm just going to Google this and see what comes up, if anything. And just was like, all this stuff came up, and it was fascinating to research it.
How about art and, I don't know how to say it, but eye focusing, or, my granddaughter has a issue with focusing, and she has to exercise for her eyes.
Yeah, my sister used to do that. Yeah.
And so that, and also speech therapy.
Yeah, but again, it encompasses everything, so it's not just visual art. So there's theater and the written word, a lot of poetry, something
and
like
with
that
children.
maybe.
Yeah.
ADHD. Yep. There's a lot of information about that out there.
the ADHD, you might run with the Asperger's and autism.
Yeah.
That would
Yeah.
do a lot.
I just actually did a blog because I have a student that I've been working with recently now, and she has what do you call it? The visual macular degeneration. And she's an amazing artist, and she's really fun to work with. She's English, and she's this little petite lady, but she can't see. You can't see the field in front. You can see some speckly stuff, but you see out of your peripheral, which I told her is so much of a gift that she doesn't understand. Being an artist, that's a gift, because I teach people how to do that. You want an artist to be able to do that, to paint out of their visual. Because all your information is right here on your subject, and so the information isn't here on your canvas. You're trying to get it from here to here. And the way to do that is to pay as much attention to this more than this. Because you want it to go straight from here to here. You don't want it to process too much in your brain, because then your logical side takes over and you start to go, oh wait, that needs to look like this, and that needs to look... So you're trying to get from here to here as fast as you can without your brain really taking over and telling you the way it's supposed to be, because that's generally not, that's a preconceived notion, and it's generally not correct. Paint what you see. That's a lot of artists say that painting is learning how to see. It's not really,
Interesting.
thinking about what you're doing. So I've been working with her with the macular
It's not really in the hand, it's in the...
And I've been telling her, paint, she's got some people telling her, oh, you have to paint this and it's got to be perfect. And I keep saying, don't listen to those people, because paint what you see. Because your painting could be fabulous. It might not be a realistic painting, but that doesn't mean that it's not a genre of painting, and it doesn't mean you can't be very proficient at it and be a great artist. I have another, an older gentleman I was working with who shook, his hand was shaking, and he was military, and at one point he was a great realist artist, and I kept telling him that it doesn't matter. You can be a great realist artist, but guess what? There's a lot of really famous artists out there, and they're abstract artists or impressionists. I mean, you got to work.
You can all buy a camera.
Yeah.
Well,
That's
even realism.
Or writing, everybody can write, even if you don't think you can. Sitting down and just writing a couple words can really start to open you up.
And even realism, there's a lot of painters who are realism, but they'll still take that glass and blur some lines,
That's
they'll
right.
move some color. It won't be exact replication.
That's right. So,
You just mentioned military, and I thought about post-traumatic stress.
yes.
Something like that.
Yep, and that's a good one. And there is a lot of research on that.
What about something with, like, what about something with women's issues, like hormones or PMS or something like that?
Hot flashes.
There was I
People like that stuff.
saw a thing, my mother-in-law sent it to me, and she said in Israel that they do that real heavy in their hospitals. You walk in the hospital and there's a grand piano right in the door.
Yeah.
And they hit you with music the moment you walk in the door.
Yeah.
So maybe to research what that hospital does.
Yeah, I will.
Might be
They
interesting.
do that here. Shands does the same thing. There's a couple of hospitals around here that do the same thing. There's always music playing. And there's a theater troupe in there. And especially the big, I'm assuming at this point, the big teaching colleges or research hospitals at the colleges, because they have big auditoriums where they're doing presentations and that kind of thing, so they can pull some of this stuff off. Or I don't know if necessarily, daycare down here in the hospital in East Clearwater, East would, I'm not sure that they could handle a big concert on a Friday night, but there's other forms,
You could do a flash mob.
Yeah, I know, right? Exactly.
College is a beautiful little auditorium for piano recitals, etc. Very close there.
Yeah.
Maybe the VA hospitals or something.
The VA has actually a little, it's one of the places I'm trying to get into. They actually have a facility that's a little bit off of the hospital where I think maybe once a week people come in and paint, and they do work with the post-traumatic stress disorder. But I want to get down there because there could be so much more. I mean, it's boggling when you start reading some of this and how it just encompasses everything, and it's not a pushy thing. It's if they know people are coming in for long periods of time, I think, do they say this, where they push the cart around, they'll ask you, they'll come in and they'll say, do you want to decorate your room? I got all this stuff on this cart, and if you're going to be here for a week, you might as well be looking at stuff that you want to look at, and so they give, they encourage
There has to be a way for you to get in there. Have you spoken to someone? Because, and this is, even the winter, remember, that was set here, and so they were at the VA hospital when the boy lost his legs, and they had people doing art. So
Yeah.
it's probably already going on if they were showing it in the movie, because how old's the movie? So,
Right.
though you say don't be pushy.
Art
persistent.
therapy's been around for years.
Right, but I'm
Yeah.
saying,
And
don't
this-
be pushy, just be persistent.
Yeah, I do.
It's
Actually,
already
I have a
there.
friend who's a psychiatrist, and she's working down there, and I asked, she's going to try to look into who it is, but I have some other phone calls I can make to try to find out what they're doing down there and who I need to talk to.
I was thinking maybe pediatrics endocrinology. Like I was, as a teenager, I was diagnosed with Graves' disease, and I think something like that probably would have helped me a lot because I had a lot of heart palpitations, I had tremors, I couldn't focus, I just like a plethora of things, and I think something like if somebody would have guided me and told me,
Yeah.
why don't you draw something, I think that would have really calmed me down because I
Sure.
knew it was just really bad. So even like something like that, like pediatric
Sure.
something,
Yeah, I'll look
like
into
Graves'
it.
disease or whatever.
Graves' disease. Yeah, I'll look into that too.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's really, art therapy has been around for a long time, but this is sort of taking art therapy to the nth degree, where you're actually considered what they call an artist in residence, and go in and facilitate with the hospital and the administration and the doctors, and do a workshop or workshops so they can see what it's all about, and then they know. And then what eventually starts happening is, hey, I need you to come in because I've got this, patient that probably could benefit from X, Y, or Z. They used to be a dancer, or it's a young child but they like to write, or, it all starts to come out when the patients are coming in and the doctors are going like, okay, So it's a little bit of training them, and it's a lot of just being there in case somebody needs it, and they always need it, and they always ask
So
for
does
it.
the hospital pay you?
We haven't gotten that far. I keep asking that question. How does this get funded?
Yeah.
So I'm sure it's probably through grants. I'm sure probably it's a little bit of corporate sponsorships, just like anything else. That's what I'm guessing. But I think, we'll eventually get to that part of it, and I'll
Maybe
find
you
out.
should contact the Glacier Museum and see about, because they do all kinds of stuff like that.
Glacier Museum.
The Glacier Museum.
Where's that?
It's over on Ashley, just north of Kennedy, in downtown Tampa.
Well, and Creative Play is really big too in St. Pete.
Yeah.
And they work with
But
the
I know
mentally
they do a
challenged.
lot of philanthropic. I know they do a lot of outreach. They do a lot of stuff with that museum because it was based on children healing and things like that. That's where the Glacier Museum started.
Great. Okay, I'll try there too. Well, these are all great things, and I will research all of them because I have a lot of blogs to do. I have to blog every Monday, and I also have to do health discussions, and I have to get on other blogs and research. I have papers to write, and so yeah, that's the challenge because I haven't been in school for 18 years. So when they said write this paper or write a lit review, I was like, okay, what's that? Or write it in APA form. I'm going, okay, what's that? So I'm doing a lot of Googling, and there's like this big learning curve of just where do I post this and where do I post that, and creating all of it. So the first 3 weeks were hard, but I got the hang of